There have been a plethora of awful video game releases this year, but the one that takes the cake was The Day Before because it came out with very misleading gameplay and it was overall a very broken experience. Nothing that the developers originally promised, but now the devs have actually shut down only 4 days after launch. I have a few different things that I want to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, follow me on social media, and consider supporting through Patreon or via YouTube memberships. So, starting off with this Forbes article, there's a lot to get through. It says, well, The Day Before isn't a scam, crowd is not looking too hot today. 4 days after launch, when The Day Before attracted 500,000 viewers on Steam after selling early access for $40, its developer Fantastic is shutting down completely, according to a new statement. Now, this is a game that has been surrounded in controversy since it was revealed many years ago, and a lot of people genuinely thought that this wasn't actually going to come out, but it did, and unfortunately, though, was nothing that the developers originally promised. They said it was going to be a survival MMO shooter. It was going to be a really cool game, it sounded like, but then it came out and it was just a very buggy and broken extraction shooter. And I completely understand that, sometimes as development continues, the scope of a project might change a little bit, but this was a completely different game than they promised, and they still expected people to basically be okay with getting scammed because it's not like it came out and it was a functional product. I mean, there were hackers on day one, but now they are completely admitting defeat and they are shutting down. It says the just released announcement says that The Day Before failed financially and that the income that was brought in was being used to pay off debts. They say they cannot afford to patch the extremely broken game, which launched in an entirely different genre than was originally promised, an extraction shooter rather than a survival MMO. And it's almost like they thought that they were going to get away with this because leading up to launch, they were doing very specific things that made people very worried. Like there were tweets where they were talking about the original vision of the game that were removed. They had almost completely scrubbed their YouTube channel and removed all of the developer diaries. They had removed a lot of the concept arts and behind the scenes footage of the game that they were creating. That all magically disappeared leading up to release. But now, funny enough, this game that, yes, disappointed many people it has now killed this development studio, and I can't really say that I feel all that bad. Again, they thought that they could get away with this launch, which was completely unacceptable. Their statement says, we announced that the Fantastic Studio is now closing. Unfortunately, The Day Before has failed financially, and we lack the funds to continue. All income received is being used to pay off debt to our partners. At the moment, the future of The Day Before and Prop Night is unknown, but the servers will remain operational. But the story does not stop there, because The Day Before publisher is, of course, now offering refunds after this disastrous launch. They have come together with Steam to offer refunds to people who were upset after the game's absolutely disastrous launch, which is at least good. At least you are getting your money back. It doesn't matter if you basically had the game running for the few days that it was operational constantly. The playtime does not matter. And at this point, as far as we are aware, they have refunded about half of the amount of copies sold. So I hope the other half of people can recognize that this game was a giant failure and a scam, and they are going to get their refund and get their money back like they deserve. But to make it even worse, they decided to make tweets saying, answer to those who ask for a refund, we are currently working with Steam to allow refunds for any player who chooses to request one regardless of game time. Fantastic received 0 and will receive nothing from The Day Before sales, and of course people are rightfully very upset upset and confused, saying, unbelievable that you guys hyped up this game so much and this is the end result. You guys are an absolute disgrace to the video game industry, which I completely agree with, because there are some fantastic games that release every single year that get overshadowed because of a launch this big. I mean, there were hundreds of thousands of people who purchased this game who were waiting to see how it was going to turn out, people who wishlisted it. I mean, it was the third highest wishlisted Steam game, and it came out and it was, just less than perfect. I mean, it was not even close to perfect. It wasn't even decent or okay. And their response, the best thing that they could come up with was, this was our first big experience, shit happens, which of course is completely unacceptable. I understand that you could be an indie developer and, your game could be so hyped up that you end up not knowing how to deal with the attention that you're getting, but they had a lot of money thrown at this game, and over the years, they have released 5 other games, so it's not like this was their first release, they didn't know what they were doing. That's not the case here at all whatsoever, and again, leading up to launch, they were very confident in their product. They were really telling people that this was going to be a fantastic game, that it was going to be crazy, that everyone was going to love it. I mean, they seriously knew how to market this game, and clearly they did it pretty well, seeing as, tons of people did actually buy it, even though we were all very worried about its release. But this was the best response they could give us, which is just so insulting to the individuals who purchased their game. But of course, this all isn't really that surprising. Just taking a look at the Steam store, it is no longer up for purchase, but it is sitting at an overwhelmingly negative score with over 20,000 reviews. I'm honestly very happy that this game is no longer being sold, that people can get refunds, because at the end of the day, this game was a massive scam, and it is good to see people actually getting their money back instead of Steam saying, well, that's up to the developers, we're going to let them decide, and then the developers keeping the money and trying to run with it. We see that a lot with, smaller Steam releases, even though, again, in my opinion, this was not a smaller release. It was the top 3 most wishlisted games on the platform leading up to launch, but the developers are saying that it just got way out of control. The situation blew up more than they were expecting, and now they're shutting down, and honestly, I could not be happier to see that this is the end result after they tried to scam us out of our hard-earned money. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this and of course found it important and informative, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.